Hello everyone, welcome back to the HashiCorp Certified Terraform Associate Cloud Certification Catalyst program. We are back with our next question. So your company has a lot of workloads in AWS and Azure that were respectively created using CloudFormation for the AWS ones and AzureRM Templates for the Azure ones. However, now your CIO has decided to use Terraform for all new projects and has asked you to check how to integrate the existing environment with Terraform code. What should be your next plan of action? So already you have resources in your infrastructure landscape. You have AWS resources that somebody else earlier had created using CloudFormation. You have Azure resources that were created using AzureRM. Maybe there are also resources which were created manually or some other way. Now, the methodology that the CIO has adopted for any new project is Terraform, and what they are asking you is to investigate is there is any way that all the existing resources that was created either using CloudFormation or Azure RM or maybe using manual processes can be now from now on tracked and maintained using the Terraform. Okay, so A, tell the CIO this option is not possible. Resources which are created in CloudFormation and AzureRM templates cannot be tracked using Terraform. Okay, but no, this is incorrect. So this is something that you need to know, that this is something that can be done in Terraform. So there is no point of telling CIO it is not possible because it is actually impossible. Because the thing is that Terraform provides you commands and tools to do this basically. So A is incorrect. B, this is only possible in Terraform Enterprise, which is the Terraform Converter exe that can take any other template language like Azure RM and convert to Terraform code. So what this is saying is that there is a exe or a installer or a program called Terraform Converter where you as an input provide, for example, a CloudFormation script, and the output is a basically a Terraform script. And this is available only in Terraform Enterprise. First of all, there is no such converter available right now. And secondly, this option is basically for you to know what are the features of Terraform Enterprise in comparison with Terraform Open Source or Terraform Cloud. So just like I mentioned earlier also, mostly we'll see that the options that Terraform Enterprise gives are basically add-ons, like for example, some other options like hybrid connectivity or on-premise installation, which are not like which are geared towards enterprises, but they don't give extra capabilities like 5 new extra commands only for enterprise. So Terraform open source has all your functionality. Only thing, it is mostly useful for one developer or two developers maximum working together. As soon as your developers increase and your scope of projects increase, then a lot of issues come in place, which are what Terraform Enterprise and Terraform Cloud try to solve. So Terraform is not trying to sell its enterprise products with that kind of mindset where they are saying that if you buy this, you get another 5 inherent functionalities that should have been in place in Terraform open source. No. So option B is not correct. Terraform Enterprise does not have any such facility. Option C, just write the Terraform config file for the new resource, run Terraform apply. The state file will automatically be updated with the details of the new resource to be imported. So again, what they are saying is that this is a much better option. They are saying that write your code in Terraform for these resources. Okay, so you know the resource because they are already created for you. So you can check those parameters and you can just write your config file using Terraform, then run Terraform apply. So if you actually do that now, you will see in the Terraform plan that Terraform is again trying to create the same resource. Why? Because the identity of these resources are not encoded in the state file, because these resources were not created using Terraform. If they had been created using Terraform, then it would have been in the state file and it would have been okay. But these were created manually outside of Terraform. So they are not in the Terraform state file. And as such, even if you can correctly write the config and you run Terraform apply, it will again try to create the resource, which is not what you want. You want basically an environment where your config is also there, and the current status of the infrastructure is encoded in the state, and there is a one-to-one mapping, so that tomorrow if you need to change anything or destroy anything, you can use Terraform. So as soon as then tomorrow there is, for example, an EC2 instance that was created using CloudFormation. So the EC2 parameters are both in my CloudFormation, sorry, both in my Terraform configuration code and also in my state file. So going forward, I can use the Terraform to basically change parameter values or do this and that. But what we should understand is that this is only for example, your new resources where it is basically getting created completely. So you cannot use this kind of a thing in this context, okay, because the resources were already created and they are already up and running. So you cannot just write a config file and run apply. Option D is use Terraform import command to import each resource one by one. So this is the correct command. Okay. So as I will show you in the Terraform documentation, Terraform provides something called Terraform import. Now the only drawback is Terraform import right now works at a per resource level. So if you have 5 VMs or 5 EC2 instances in AWS, you have to run Terraform import for each of them. And this only imports the state. So this does not import the config. So you still need to write the config and then write Terraform import, and it will basically take the actual state of the infrastructure, import it or push it into your state file with a one-to-one mapping with your configuration code. So the correct answer is option D. D is use Terraform import command to import each resource one by one. Okay, so let's go to the documentation. As you can see, Terraform is able to import existing infrastructure. This allows you to take resources that you have created by some other means. That mean can be CloudFormation, AzureRM, that can be manual provisioning, API call, PowerShell, whatever, and bring it under Terraform management. This is a great way to slowly transition infrastructure to Terraform, or be able to be confident that you can use Terraform in the future if it potentially does not support every feature that you need today. So the option is there. But what you have to know is that, for example, the current implementation of Terraform can only import the resource into the state file. It does not generate the configuration. So you cannot basically just run the command, okay, and you get both the config and the state and nothing you have to do. No, you can run the command and get the state, but you still need to manually write the config, and there will be a one-to-one mapping between the state and the config. So because of this, prior to running Terraform import, it is necessary to write manually the resource configuration block for the resource to which the imported object will be mapped. So you write the config block for the resource, then you run Terraform import command saying that this is my config block identifier and this is my actual resource identifier. Kindly fetch the state and do a one-to-one mapping between them. So while this may seem tedious, it still gives Terraform users an avenue for importing existing resources. Future version of Terraform will fully generate configuration and significantly simplify this process. So a future version will basically, you just run Terraform import, it will do both. It will basically get your state file, create your state file for that resource, and it is also going to generate your configuration. So now if you just see this usage part, you will understand how this has to be used in a little bit better. So for example, you have to use Terraform import to import some resource. So one thing you have to know is that you can only import one resource at a time. You cannot yet point Terraform import to an entire collection of resources in AWS VPC and import all of it. So this is the tedious part. You have to go for every single resource in your infrastructure landscape. You need to create the config and then run Terraform import. So for example, to import the resource, you first write a resource block for it in your configuration, establishing the name by which it will be known to Terraform, meaning resource AWS instance, meaning there is an AWS instance, EC2 instance, and this is the name of the resource, logical name of the resource by which it can be identified. The name example here is local to the module where it is declared. This is distinct from any ID which is issued by the remote system. So this is not like I-1234, which might change over time, while the resource name, this name will remain constant. Now you can even keep this configuration blank. So if desired, you can leave the body of the resource blank for now and return to fill it once the instance is imported. So this part you can actually keep blank. You can just keep this placeholder. Okay, this is something that you need to do for every single resource. Then you run Terraform import. This is the name of this logical identifier. So AWS instance.example, and this is the actual EC2 instance. So this command will locate the AWS instance ID, and then it will attach the existing settings of this instance, which is described by the EC2 API, to the name AWS instance.example. In this example, the module path implies that the root module is used. This is completely separate. This is a little bit more depth. You can go over this document in complete detail. So what you have to understand is that for every single resource, I need to do this. For every single resource that I need to import, I basically need to create that placeholder, number one. Then I need to basically go and create the Terraform state file, right? So basically, I don't have to create it manually. I just run this command where I basically do that link, right? This is my configs entry. This is the logical identifier of the resource that I am going to mention in my Terraform config file, and in right side I have basically the actual resource which is up and running in the CSP. And then as soon as you run Terraform import, the parameters of that resource will basically be imported into the state file and attached to this AWS instance.example. So then what you have to do, carefully check those values, okay, that are coming already in your state, and then you need to append your configuration to match it one to one. If you don't do this, then the next time you run Terraform apply, it will give an error because it will not be a matching one. So you basically need to do this. So this is something you need to do manually for now. File change you have to do manually. Once this thing is in the next version, maybe Terraform, you just run this command maybe, and Terraform is basically both going to create this block, meaning this block they are going to create, and along with that they are going to do this part also, okay, meaning they are going to fetch the Terraform state file into our, fetch the actual state of the resource into the Terraform state file, something which they're already doing, and maybe also create this config entry for us, including everything in underneath, beneath, basically everything in inside this block also needs to be added. Maybe they are going to do it automatically going forward, but for now you have to do it manually. So you need to know that this is Terraform import functionality, so it is a possibility, and I'm quite sure you will get at least 1 to 2 resources on this topic. Okay, so the answer is C. Use Terraform import command to import each resource one by one. So thank you everyone. Please subscribe to my channel and also check out all the new videos.